governor-elect, Governor David Leon, to the effect that the court, in its judgment, disqualified the running mate, the deputy governor-elect, on account of differences in name. And as a consequence, proceeded to nullify the candidature of the governor-elect, David Leon, and his running mate. From the online stories we've read, since the Supreme Court judgment hard copy has not been obtained, the court resolved that the certificate of return already issued to the governor-elect, David Leon, be withdrawn, and directed INEC to issue a certificate to the next person who scored the highest vote in the said election, if such a person has the required spread. As a political party, we respect the rule of law, and we respect and we have confidence in the judiciary. However, this judgment, obviously, like the fruits of justice. For me and for our party, at the heart of election is the issue of who did the people actually voted for. Is there a case of impersonation on the part of the deputy governor-elect? Is there any other person who has turned up to claim that name as to raise doubt as to whether or not this was the deputy governor-elect duly elected along with the governor during the Bayelsa governorship election? Now, where justice and democracy is sacrificed on the altar of technicalities, this for me constitutes a grave danger to our democracy. Nobody has raised issues about whether or not David Leon and his running mate won overwhelming majority in this said election. Issues of whether a chieftaincy title is part of a name or is not a name, in our view, could not be a reason to dismiss the wishes of the great people of Bayelsa State, who repose absolute confidence in the way in which they elected David Leon and his running mate during the last governorship election. But let me also say that it is not a state secret. If, as the Supreme Court has ruled, David Leon cannot now be sworn in as governor, and that the person who has the highest number of votes and a spread be sworn in, it simply means that from tomorrow there will be no government in Bayelsa State. Because as far as we know, the next candidate, because these files are before courts, who happen to be a PDP candidate, does not have 1/4 of the total lawful vote cast. In that 1/4 of the votes of the vote cast in that election, in 2/3 of the 8 local governments in Bayelsa State. And therefore, from the facts available to us, and in due consultation with our lawyers, it is clear that there is no candidate that meets the requirement of the Supreme Court, which means no one can be sworn in legally tomorrow unless there is deliberate abuse of the legal process. We have accordingly asked our lawyers to look at all the windows that exist in law and take steps to ensure that the will of the people of Bayelsa State is not undermined on the altar of technicalities. I am not a lawyer, but I don't need to be one. Because when judges make judgment, they are published, and once you can read and write, there are some that even laymen like me can understand. In 1999, there was a similar case in Bauchi involving Governor Adamu Muazu. The court nullified, found that his running mate was not qualified, for whatever reason, to contest that election. And accordingly, the Supreme Court nullified the election of Governor Adamu Muazu. And the court, as a consequence, directed INEC to conduct a fresh election. I believe it is still the same Supreme Court. And therefore, we've asked our lawyers to exploit all lawful legal windows to ensure that Bayelsa people have a governor of their own choosing. I have chosen to make this formal response to this judgment so that we do not leave, in particular, the great people of Bayelsa State in doubt as to where we stand. We stand by them. I also want the Nigeria public to know that this is the position of the APC. Let me say that this, bad as the case of Zamfara was, where after we have won the governorship election, the senatorial election, the House of Reps, and the House of Assembly election, the court held that we, APC, did not conduct primaries in Zamfara State, and therefore did not participate in that election. This one is totally different. There is no question about the fact that proper elections were conducted. In fact, even the Supreme Court has so upheld. It's gone through the judicial process. So this is not another Zamfara case. And therefore, the essential ingredients are different, and therefore the outcome and consequences cannot be the same. We want to assure not just APC members across the country who are still in shock over this judgment. We want to assure the Nigerian people that we are a law-abiding party. We still believe that the will of Bayelsa people will prevail and that there is sufficient legal window to achieve this. So thank you for responding to our invitation for this press conference. Okay. Thank you and have a great day. You can find in all the online major newspapers is that INEC, it gave a conditional order. It says INEC should swear in the next person with the highest vote cast. If, and I want you to listen, if the person, no, don't add. If the person meets the required spread. The required spread in law means to tell that the person must have scored at least 1/4 of the total vote cast in at least 2/3 of the local government. In this case, beside David Leon, there is no any other candidate in that election that meet this requirement.
Okay.
To exploit all the legal windows.
Okay. Yes, I think I will take this question. Would that be different from what PDP is doing for Senimo State, going back to Supreme Court to say they should reserve themselves this issue?
Well, this is your choice to add. I have said we've told our lawyers, and we have the best legal brains in this and other matters that we have had, to exploit all the legal windows in view of the fact that as it stands, the judgment of the Supreme Court, which talks about the person with required spread beside David Lion, there is no any other person. If you are not still able to make the decision, then it's a bit challenging for me. I mean, it's clear what I've said. I mean, it's clear to even the uninformed. Thank you very much. Have a great day.